The apartment was quiet. That specific kind of quiet that only settles in after a long relationship ends. Mark wasn't looking for trouble. He wasn't greedy. He wasn't even looking for love. He was just a 34-year-old software engineer in Seattle who wanted to fill the silence. He decided to learn a language. It felt productive, safe. He downloaded a popular language exchange app. He built a profile. He waited. It started with a notification. A simple hello from a user named Aiko. Her profile was modest. Photos of landscapes, a cat, a few selfies that didn't look staged. She wanted to learn English for her design job in Tokyo. Mark wanted to learn Japanese. It was the perfect exchange. They messaged for a few days. The conversations were stiff at first. Time zone differences, broken grammar, the usual barriers of digital communication. But Mark was patient. He corrected her syntax. She taught him phrases for ordering coffee. It was innocent. It was mundane. Mark started checking his phone first thing in the morning. Seeing a message from Aiko became the dopamine hit that started his day. She was funny. She was self-deprecating. She sent photos of her lunch, her messy desk, the rain on her window. He wasn't talking to a bot. He was talking to a person. He was sure of it. We often think of scams as instant, a frantic email, a sudden demand for cash. We think we're too smart to fall for it. But sophisticated predators don't hunt with speed. They hunt with patience. By month 2, Aiko wasn't just a language partner. She was a fixture in Mark's life. They moved from the app to WhatsApp. Then came the voice notes. Her voice was soft, real. She laughed at his jokes. She sounded tired after work. They FaceTimed. This is the moment that usually saves people. You expect a black screen, a broken camera, an excuse. But Mark saw her. She was there, living, breathing, waving at the camera from a cafe in Shinjuku. She looked exactly like her photos. They talked for an hour. She showed him the street outside. They laughed about the weather. Mark put the phone down that night feeling lighter than he had in a year. He told his sister about her. He mentioned her to his co-workers. He was proud. He didn't know he was being groomed. Aiko started sharing her vulnerabilities. She talked about the pressure of her job, her worries about her aging parents. She opened the door, and Mark walked right in. He shared his own fears, his breakup, his financial anxiety about the future. He handed her the blueprints to his psychology. He told her exactly what he needed to hear. And she listened. She remembered the names of his friends. She asked about his meetings. She became the most consistent, supportive presence in his world. It was 3 months in. 90 days of trust building. 90 days of good morning and good night. Mark felt safe. He felt understood. And that is exactly when she made her move. It wasn't a demand. It wasn't a desperate plea for help. It was a casual photo. A screenshot of a dinner receipt with a graph visible on a phone screen, lying on the table next to the plate. Mark asked, "What's that chart?" Aiko laughed it off. "Oh, just my aunt hobby," she said. She analyzes market trends. "It's boring." She changed the subject. She didn't push. She pulled away. It was a masterclass in reverse psychology. Now, Mark was the one curious. Mark was the one pursuing the topic. He had no idea that Aiko didn't exist. He had no idea the woman on the video call was likely a traffic victim forced to read a script. And he certainly didn't know that the boring hobby was about to cost him everything he owned. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was that he was about to thank her for doing it. Mark didn't ask about the money immediately. He let it sit, but the seed was planted. 2 days later, Aiko brought up, not aggressively, just casually. She mentioned she was buying a new handbag because her aunt's node had performed well that week. Mark made a joke about wishing he could buy a bag that easily. Aiko paused. She sent a voice note. She sounded hesitant. "I can ask her if you want, but she is very private. Please don't be mad if she says no." Mark felt special when she came back with good news. Her aunt had agreed to let him try, but only a small amount. To stay safe, Aiko said. She sent him a link. It wasn't a shady back alley site. It was a professional, sleek platform. It had live support polished graphics and real-time charts. It looked better than his actual bank's website. Mark was cautious. He wasn't stupid. He decided to test the waters with $500, money he could afford to lose. He transferred the crypto. He watched it hit the account. For 3 days, nothing happened. He almost forgot about it. Then the notification came. He opened the app. The $500 was now $650. A 30% return in 72 hours. Mark stared at the screen. His heart rate kicked up, but the skepticism was still there. This was just a number on a screen. It wasn't real until it was in his bank account. He messaged Aiko, "I want to withdraw it." He expected an excuse. He expected a processing fee. He expected resistance. Instead, Aiko sent a smiling emoji. "Of course. Treat yourself to a nice dinner tonight." He hit withdraw. 10 minutes later, the money was in his Chase checking account. All of it, the principal and the profit. This is the moment the trap snapped shut. The withdrawal wasn't a sign of legitimacy. It was the bait, and Mark had just swallowed it whole. The skepticism evaporated. The proof was in his bank. Real dollars. Mark took himself out to dinner, just like she suggested. He sent her a photo of the steak. She replied, "I'm so happy for us." Us. That word did more work than the money. It wasn't just an investment anymore. It was their future. The dynamic shifted overnight. The conversations weren't just about language and life anymore. They were about strategy. Aiko added him to a Signal group with other investors. They were posting screenshots of six-figure gains. They were thanking the ant. It was a theater production, and Mark was the only audience member who didn't know the actors were reading from a script. Logic was quickly being replaced by adrenaline, and adrenaline is a terrible financial advisor. A week later, Aiko called him. She sounded breathless, excited. "My aunt says there is a gold node event," she whispered. "It only happens once a year, but we need a minimum position to enter." The minimum was $50,000. Mark hesitated. That was his savings. That was the house down payment. But he remembered the steak dinner. He remembered the withdrawal. He remembered us. He moved $20,000. Then he liquidated his stocks. He pulled $30,000 more. He felt a knot in his stomach as he hit transfer. But it wasn't fear. It was a thrill of the gamble. This is where the isolation began. Not physical isolation, but psychological. Mark stopped mentioning Aiko to his sister. He stopped talking about the language app to his friends. Deep down, a tiny part of him knew they would try to stop him. They wouldn't understand. They would call it risky. So he protected the lie. He built a wall around himself and Aiko, keeping the skeptics out. The money hit the platform. Almost instantly, the numbers started climbing. $50,000 became $60,000, then $85,000. Mark was checking the app every hour at work. He was making more money in the bathroom break than he made in a week of coding. He felt like a genius. He felt powerful. He was flying, but he didn't notice that the ground was getting further and further away. Then came the final push. Aiko messaged him. "Mark, the event is extending. If we hit $150,000 total balance, we get into the VIP tier. The returns double. We could buy the house in Tokyo next year. Cash." Mark looked at his balance. He was at $90,000 on paper. He needed to inject $60,000 more of new capital to hit the tier. He didn't have it. He told her, "I'm tapped out, Aiko." She didn't get angry. She got sad. She sent a voice note, sounding like she had been crying. "I understand. It's just, I thought we were building this together. I put in everything I had. I guess I care more about our future." Mark felt a wave of guilt. He was failing her. He went to the bank the next morning. He took out a personal loan. He maxed out 2 credit cards for a cash advance. He scraped every barrel he had. He transferred the last $60,000. His total investment was now over $110,000 of his own money. The screen showed a balance of nearly $400,000. He sent her a screenshot. "I did it. For us." Aiko replied with a heart. "You won't regret this." For 3 days, Mark felt like a millionaire. He was browsing real estate listings. He was looking at flights to Japan. But the silence was coming. It started with a glitch. Mark tried to withdraw $1,000 just to pay the interest on the loan he'd taken. The app spun. Error code 404. He refreshed. Processing. It stayed on processing for an hour. Then, he messaged Aiko. Hey, the withdrawal is stuck. 1 hour passed. No read receipt. 2 hours. Mark felt the first drop of ice-cold water run down his spine. 3 hours later, Aiko finally replied. But the tone was different. The warmth was gone. The grammar was perfect. It felt administrative. Honey, don't worry. Customer service says it is a security flag. You just need to verify. Mark messaged the in-app support. They replied instantly. Dear user, your account exceeds a withdrawal limit. To comply with global anti-money laundering regulations, you must deposit a 20% tax provision to unfreeze the assets. 20%. That was $80,000. And the catch? It had to be new money. They couldn't deduct it from the balance. Mark panicked. He called Aiko. For the first time in 4 months, she declined the call. She messaged, just borrow it, Mark. We are so close. Don't ruin this for us. Don't ruin this. She was blaming him. Mark sat in his kitchen, the lights off. He did the math. He had maxed out the cards. The loan was spent. He had $400 left in his checking account for groceries. He typed back, I can't. I don't have it. Please help me. When the message finally came, it wasn't from the Aiko who loved design and sunsets. It was cold. If you don't pay in 24 hours, the account is permanently locked. Figured out. The mask had slipped. The desperation made Mark do something he should have done months ago. He reverse image searched her photos. For months, he had only searched the low-res selfies. No results. But this time, he cropped a photo of her dinner she sent weeks ago. Google Lens found it immediately. It wasn't a dinner in Tokyo. It was a photo from a food blogger in Taiwan, posted 3 years ago. He messaged her one last time. I know. He sent the link to the original photo. He expected a denial. He expected an excuse. He got neither. The chat window flashed. User not found. He checked the signal group. You have been removed. He opened the trading app. 404 error. Server not found. In the span of 60 seconds, his girlfriend, his investment group, and his life savings simply ceased to exist. The phone in his hand was just a piece of glass and metal again. The ghosts were gone. The police report was filed on a Tuesday. The officer was kind, but tired. Mark could see it in his eyes. He had taken this exact report 3 times that week. We'll file it with the FBI, the officer said. But honestly, the money is in a wallet in Cambodia or Myanmar by now. It's gone. Mark went home. The silence in the apartment was deafening. But then the bills arrived. The personal loan payment, $1,200 a month. The credit cards, minimum payments he couldn't make. Mark didn't lose extra money. He lost his future. He had to move out of his apartment. He sold his car. He moved back in with his parents at age 35, sleeping in the same room he grew up in. But the financial ruin wasn't the hardest part. Money, eventually, can be earned back. The hardest part was the grief. Mark grieved for Aiko. Even though he knew she wasn't real, the feelings he felt were real. He missed the good morning texts. He missed the feeling of being understood. He had fallen in love with a script. He had poured his heart out to an algorithm designed to harvest it. But Mark wasn't scammed because he was greedy. He wasn't scammed because he was stupid. He was scammed because he was lonely. The scammers didn't sell him crypto. They didn't sell him a get-rich-quick scheme. They sold him a cure for his isolation. And the $120,000 was an investment. It was the price of admission for 3 months of feeling like he mattered to someone. A new user just downloaded a language app. He's lonely. He's looking for connection. And Aiko is typing,